Come with me as I head out to my local flea market in search of video games. First booth I found ended up having these little Sonic plushes, but they wanted $5 for Sonic and Tails, so I passed. And then I ended up finding this Mario Kart controller, but I didn't really need a remote control Mario Kart, so I left that behind and continued on. Where these little, look at this Bowser. These little keychains were so fake, but they caught my eye and were so funny. I just had to laugh and show you. Then I ended up finding this box full of old PS3 games. I've seen this before a few times, and it's always good to stop because there were a few new games here, but for the most part, these have obviously been picked over, so I really didn't find anything that I had to grab, unfortunately, because usually these are pretty cheap if there is anything good. However, there wasn't, so I just left them and continued on. It was a nice and sunny day out, and I kind of wandered my way through. I saw this obviously knockoff Mario shirt, but it was still pretty cool. And again, more knockoff Mario stuff here in this booth. And even a bunch of keychains and stuff here. We'll get to everything that is here, but again, this is very much knockoff. Look at this Mario. Something about him is obviously a little wrong, but I continued on there. Nothing too good so far, which is kind of a bummer, but that's not going to stop us. I ended up seeing this Mario Kart or Mario lunchbox, and it's pretty new, and I don't have a reason to carry around a lunchbox, so I left it behind and continued on. We ended up at this booth that is an obvious reseller, but sometimes they get good deals. I've bought from them before, but stuff like this you really have to hunt for. They have tons of games, and occasionally things fall through the cracks. So if you see a booth like this in your area or at a flea market, don't pass it up, because oftentimes you can find something in it that's worth it, but you definitely have to look. You're not going to get cheap prices, but you may find a game that's $10, $5, $15 cheaper than it should be. So always stop and look. You don't always have to buy, but at least dig through and see if you can find anything. This skate for the Wii has always caught my eye, but I've never picked it up. I think I probably need to soon. Then I noticed there was even a few Wii U games, which I do not see in my area very much. So that's kind of a good sight to see, but I kind of wandered through here and didn't really find anything that I had to have, but they had a ton of stuff. I kind of wish I could talk to them and buy bundles because they always have stuff. But then I checked out this glass display case or whatever you call it. It had DS, 3DS, even a bunch of Switch games, which is kind of cool. But the funniest thing that I ended up seeing was this obviously fake Sonic game for $10 for the Game Boy Advance. If that was $5, I might pick it up just because I think it's hilarious. But then I kept going where I ended up seeing this Pikachu from afar away. And then when I got closer, I noticed it's a backpack. And honestly, I see the things like this all the time. So I continued on. Walking on farther, I saw this little Mario in a Spider-Man costume, which obviously I think they did that, but I had to stop and look at it because it was pretty funny. And then I ended up wandering into this booth and ended up finding two plushies. This is a Mario plush and a Yoshi plush. And honestly, this was a really good deal. I'm so glad that I stopped because when I see stuff like this, usually I don't even check it out, but I stopped for whatever reason and said, hey, how much is that? And they said $2, and I was like, oh, $2 each. And she said, no, $2 for both. So I paid $1 for each of these, and they're awesome. These are Nintendo branded. They're actual real Mario and Yoshi. They're no knockoffs. So for $1 each, you know I'm going to pick these up. They'll probably end up back there on the shelf or on a shelf somewhere. For $1 though, I couldn't pass these up. I had to pick them up. Then I went to this next booth that has a ton of video games. Here you see me looking through the NES games, and then I checked out the Nintendo 64 games, but this is another reseller booth. So it usually means I have to really dig through in order to find stuff that I don't have or things in a good price range and all that. So I kind of was wandering through here, checking it out. I ended up finding some Super Nintendo games here, as well as some PlayStation and Sega Genesis games back there. The wind was a little crazy, so my hair is in frame. I'm sorry about that. Sometimes it has a mind of its own, but they have a bunch of consoles here, and usually the prices aren't too bad. They're about price charting, maybe $10 more sometimes, but this Mortal Kombat 1-Up machine always catches my eye, and I think it's awesome. Found some GameCube games here, Wii games, DS games, even Switch games. They have a bunch of Switch consoles here. There's a ton of good stuff. I was kind of checking it out, trying to see if there was anything I had to have here. And honestly, this is where you're going to spend a lot of your time, is just kind of digging through. There's a bunch of controllers here, a few games in that glass case, but again, nothing I had to have. I was kind of checking it out. There's a bunch of Switch games that are loose cartridge in there as well. Then I kind of went around to this area where they have PlayStation 5, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360. I made my way through the bin of PS2 games. There's some decent stuff. I looked at this RPG Maker 3. I almost picked it up, but it was just a little bit too expensive. Checked out the Xbox section, and then I spotted a GameCube game, which is totally awesome, that I don't have. Tarzan Untamed for $10. This is a great deal. And then I continued on and was kind of checking out these other bins here. There are some PlayStation 3 games here, nothing that I need or have to grab either, as well as a bunch of Xbox 360 games they have laid out. And then that brings us to the front, where there's a bunch of awesome stuff here. A few GameCube games sprinkled in. For the most part, they're about what they're worth or a little bit more. But then I found Mario Superstar Baseball for $50. This game complete goes for around $61 to $62, so $50 is a good deal. And then when I went to go pay for it, I said, hey, would you take $55? And thankfully, they ended up taking it. So I spent $55 on both of these games. Tarzan Untamed for $12 is about what it's worth. So $10 for that. It was actually down to $5 if I want to consider I paid $55 for it. So for $5, I had to pick this up. I'm always trying to add GameCube games, so when I saw this, I had to have it. And then this was a great deal. At $50, it is missing the manual, but for the most part, this is a game I don't have either. So paying $55 for both of these are just a no-brainer. This is better than Facebook or price charting. I don't know why Facebook Marketplace. I wouldn't have found these on Facebook Marketplace in my area, but these are cheaper than price charting, so I saw them and I had to grab them, as well as the two plushies for $1 each. I ended up paying $57 at this flea market. Unfortunately, I didn't really find anything else. Sometimes there's a few extra booths at the end that have video games, but no one had it this time. But I still think I ended up going and finding some good stuff. These for $1, like I keep saying, totally awesome. And GameCube games in my area are like almost non-existent, or they're like $15, $20 more than price charting. So I'm so glad that I picked these up. But what do you think? Was this worth going to the flea market? I had a good day. I think it was well worth it. A good Saturday morning trip to the flea market. But what do you think? Comment down below and let me know. But I'm going to get out of here because I've never actually played this game and it looks like a ton of fun. So I'm getting out of here. So check that video out if you haven't already, because I'm about to be busy playing some stuff. So if you thought this was worth it, comment down below and let me know. If not, also let me know. But I'm getting out of here. So check out that video out if you haven't already.